Good morning. Welcome to another fresh edition of your newspaper review on the program Inside Nigeria on Leadership Television this morning. My name is Winifred Webo. We apologize for bringing the program a bit behind schedule. We're experiencing some technical glitches. However, today is May 29. It is the second anniversary of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in office. Congratulations to the president, to Nigerians. Of course, we've gone thus far. And today's papers are all agog with the celebration of the anniversary of inauguration, 2 years of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in office. Well, we'll start with Leadership newspaper this morning, and Leadership just has one story as its main cover because of the wraparound advert just underneath it, so like other papers we have on our menu. So let's see Leadership's only leading story. Leadership says Senate passes harmonized version of Tinubu's tax reform bills. Senate passes harmonized version of Tinubu's tax reform bills. Leading story on Leadership, this inauguration, 2 years inauguration anniversary. Moving ahead, we go to page 3 of the paper where we have our stand. Of course, today's stand also reflects the anniversary of Tinubu's 2 years in office. So it's on Tinubu's midterm report card. Tinubu's midterm report card, today's stand in Leadership. Let's take some excerpts from that stand. It says, as President Bola Tinubu marks his second anniversary in office today, Nigeria stands at a critical junction. 2 years ago, with characteristic boldness, the president declared in his inaugural address that today is goals, setting in notice a series of economic reforms that would fundamentally reshape the nation's fiscal landscape. Today, as we assess the midterm of his first term, the question confronting many Nigerians is stark. Have these painful adjustments translated into tangible improvements in their daily lives? Is a question being asked today in today's stand in Leadership newspaper. Tinubu's midterm report card. Tinubu's midterm report card. Just before we conclude, let's go towards the conclusion of that stand. It says, as we approach the halfway mark of President Tinubu's first term, several urgent priorities demand immediate attention. First, the administration must implement targeted interventions to caution the impact of economic reforms on vulnerable populations. Secondly, state governors must be held accountable for the substantial increase in their allocations. Citizens deserve to see concrete improvements in service delivery, particularly in healthcare, education, and infrastructure. Excerpts from today's stand in Leadership reflecting Tinubu's 2 years in office, Tinubu's midterm report card. From that stand, we move to the back page where we have the Minister of Information and Orientation, Mohammed Idris, as a guest columnist. He's writing on the Tinubu administration are two: taming old monsters and entrenching a prosperous new order. Guest columnist today on the back page of Leadership newspaper from the Minister of Information and National Orientation of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Alhaji Mohammed Idris. That concludes review of Leadership newspaper this Thursday. For more, log into the website of Leadership. We move over to the next paper we have on our lineup. Still the same stories like Leadership. What I mean is that we still have the cover anniversary advert on the cover of The Guardian. The Guardian says Tinubu insists economic reforms are working. Opposition kicks. Main leading story on The Guardian. Tinubu insists economic reforms are working. Opposition kicks. This story continues on page 6 of The Guardian. And above this leading story on The Guardian, ECOWAS at 50. Tinubu got one other 6 stronger ties amid shifting alliances, security woes. 4,169 teachers fail professional qualifying exam. The story continues on page 7 of The Guardian. 4,169 teachers fail professional qualifying exam. Earlier, Obi decried lack of strategy to curb insecurity. Another leading story on the cover of The Guardian this Thursday. For more, log into the website of The Guardian as we conclude review on the front headline stories. From The Guardian, we move over to the next paper we have on our lineup, and that is The Nation. The Nation says Presidency Finance Ministry explain borrowing plan, request for federal government states. Presidency Finance Ministry explained borrowing plan. This is coming on the response to that borrowing by the federal government to the National Assembly for approval yesterday, which also graced the covers of our papers we have on our lineup. And in response to that, Presidency Finance Ministry explained borrowing plan, requests for federal government states. On The Nation, leaders mark ECOWAS at 50 with hope for brighter future. Tinubu government at 2, strides have been taken, more needed. This also the editorial on page 18 or thereabout of The Nation. Tinubu government at 2, strides have been taken, more needed. Just like leadership, which also did its editorial on Tinubu's midterm report. That also concludes the review of front headline stories on The Nation this Thursday. For more, log into the website of The Nation. Even as we cruise to the next paper we have on our lineup, and that is Nigerian Tribune. Nigerian Tribune still having the same big advert on its cover, has stories above just the man's dead. Emefiele appeals final forfeiture order on 753 housing units estates. Emefiele appeals final forfeiture order on 753 housing unit estate. Of course, the estate has been handed over by the FCC chairman to the Minister of Housing. Second anniversary, Tinubu declares economic reforms working. Says only alternative to reforms was fiscal collapse. Reaffirms commitment to security, national development. Highlights progress made amid rising cost of living. These are kickers to the leading story on Nigerian Tribune this Thursday, this anniversary of President Bola Tinubu's inauguration. It says second anniversary, Tinubu declares economic reforms working. Says only alternative to reforms was fiscal collapse. Reaffirms commitment to security, national development. Highlights progress made amid rising cost of living. The story continues on page 12 of Nigerian Tribune. Affair on Thursday, parliamentary power versus executive outreach, global examples and Nigeria's contrast. One is a series and it runs on page 60 of Nigerian Tribune. From Nigerian Tribune, as we conclude, for more, log into the website of Nigerian Tribune. Let's move to the next paper we have on our lineup, and that is Vanguard. Vanguard says midterm security economy improving under my watch, coming from the president himself, Tinubu. Tinubu must apologize, step aside over failures. PDP respond. Our government would have done better. Labour Party. We're on track, says APC. Tinubu must change his policies on IECON, and the story continues on page 8 of Vanguard. I'll take the leading story once again. Midterm security economy improving under my watch, Tinubu. And the kickers, Tinubu must apologize, step aside over failures, coming from PDP. Labour Party says our government would have done better. We're on track, says APC. Tinubu must change his policies on IECON. And we move to the next story on the cover of leadership. Of course, on Vanguard. Of course, that is also an advertorial. Tinubu's renewed hope, a midterm assessment, unfulfilled promises or dawn of renewed hope, is a story that runs on page 19 of Vanguard. Of course, it's a story you have to read to find out whether Tinubu's midterm is unfulfilled promises or dawn of renewed hope. With that, we conclude review of front headline stories on Vanguard newspaper this Thursday inauguration anniversary of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. However, from Vanguard, we move to the next paper we have on our lineup, and that is Blueprint. Blueprint leads with ECOWAS story. It says at 50, ECOWAS has made significant progress. Go on. Reflects on sub-regional bodies takeoff in Lagos. Sad over Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger pull out. Leading story on Blueprint newspaper. Buhari thumbs up Tinubu at midterm, urges patience on reforms. Senate adopts harmonized report on tax bills. That is the leading story on leadership this Thursday. Passes FCT's 1.8 trillion naira budget. Buhari thumbs up Tinubu at midterm, urges patience on reforms. Still on leadership story, still on Blueprint newspaper, Wike hints on ground rent increase warns defaulters. Leading story today on Blueprint newspaper. We move towards the masthead of Blueprint have been guided by clear vision in the last 2 years, coming from the Niger State Governor, Bago. Dangote Cement rewards distributors, customers with CNG trucks, 11 billion naira cash. Dangote Cement rewards distributors, customers with CNG trucks, 11 billion naira cash. And sports, Gateway Games, Bayelsa defeat host state, clinch gold in women basketball. Gateway Games, Bayelsa defeat host state, clinch gold in women's basketball. With that, we conclude front headlines review on Blueprint newspaper this Thursday. Don't forget to log into the website of Blueprint for more of the stories. www.blueprint.ng. From Blueprint newspaper, we conclude today's Inside Nigeria, brought to you on Leadership Television. Don't forget to log into the website of Leadership for more of the stories. My name is Winifred Ugwebo. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last